Hey, Brenton here from Effortless Swimming. In this episode of Feedback Friday, where we analyze someone's technique and we look at what they can do to swim faster and easier, the swimmer today is an athlete called Russell. He said he was a swimmer in high school and now he's wanting to swim to stay in shape and keep fit. And he said that one of the problems he has at the moment is that he fatigues. He tires really quickly, and after about 25 meters, he finds himself out of breath. So let's have a look and see what this swimmer could do to really bring the effort level down and have him swim much longer and be able to do it for very little effort. Now, one of the things you'll probably notice here is body position, is the hips and the legs do drop quite low. But the thing that I'm sort of looking at here that is probably one of the main causes of it is the stroke itself isn't super long. So if we look from from the front here, you'll see that when the hand enters and it reaches and extends forwards, it goes down to the bottom of the pool fairly quickly. So there's not much reach and extension forwards. And the way I like to think of swimming freestyle is when we enter our hand and we reach forwards, we almost want to get to that, what I'd call base position of being on your side with one arm fully extended, fingertips at about armpit depth, and the other hand is just pressing back past the hip. So we want to get to that base position where you're fully extended on the side with about 40 degrees rotation through the shoulders. Then we want to begin the catch. And then you just transfer from that base position to the next base position, which is on your other side. Now, if we don't do that and we come in and we enter very steeply, so let's have a look here from this side view, which we've got here. All right, so you see here the hand enters, goes down quite deep, quite early. So I'd almost consider this, right, his base position where the hand's down quite deep. But if we think of balancing in the water, the weight of the legs, or the density of the legs is always kind of going to take over if our hand just goes down to there. Whereas if we enter and we spend a little bit of time reaching forwards in front of the shoulder, like we're reaching for this wall in front of us there, while we're sort of rotating and extending, then it really changes the balance of the body, because you'll go from being that long in the water to about that much longer in the water. And if we think of how do we balance, well, we've got to really change it by having something out in front of us a little bit more. So that's going to do quite a bit to help bring this back end up and really take the effort out of it. Because if you feel like you're on this treadmill that's really hard to get off, like if you feel like the arms are spinning and there's no point where you're resting, then thinking about that base position on your right side, on your left side, and just switching from left to right can be a really good way to find that point where you can actually rest a little bit. Because when you're in that reach and somewhat of a glide phase, you'd almost call it, then you can feel so much more balanced and so much more comfortable. And then the heart rate can come down and the effort can come down. Otherwise, you're just continuing to go on this almost like a treadmill with the arms. So what could he do here? Well, first thing I'd look to do is if we have a look at where he's entering the water. So he's coming over here. That right hand enters really close to his head, if not right next to it. And then it reaches and extends forwards. And as we saw, it goes down quite deep early on, which we'll see right here. So that right hand, that enters close, goes down deep early. So I'd encourage him to enter further forwards. So out in front of the head, leave the last little bit, just the last little bit of reach and extension to happen in the water, not most of it. So enter further forwards, and then once he's in, feel like he's reaching for that wall at the end and reaching and stretching, and then go into the catch. So, and similar thing on the left-hand side, that one enters a lot better. It's a lot further forwards, which is good. As he comes in, we do get a little bit of sort of reach there, which is good. But you can see that it does go down quite deep there afterwards. But it's really, I'd look to adjust the entry and that reach phase. Now, the other thing that he may need to do here, if he's running out of breath, we want to have a look at how he's breathing. Now, it does look like he may be holding his breath a little bit too much. There's no point where I can really see that he's exhaling while he's swimming. So if we're having a look there, the breath is being held and there's no exhalation. So what might be happening that's causing his heart rate to come up is he's getting the breath, he's going, and then holding it, there's no exhalation, and then it's probably not until, let's just say it here, turns the head. So where do we get this exhalation? We don't get any exhalation until maybe there, or even when he's out of the water. So he's holding his breath a little too long, leaving that exhale a bit too late. And so he's probably turning to the side, letting it out, and then feeling like, I haven't got much time. I've got to get that breath in. So what I'd encourage him to do there is to, when the face returns to the water, get that light trickle of air through the nose, a little bit of exhalation, and then that bigger exhale while he's turning his head to the side. And then it's so much easier to get the breath. So that, I would say, will be a one factor in why his heart rate is up quite high. The thing he mentioned was that one of the things he's tried is to reduce the kick, to back off the effort of the kick and the speed of it, which can be a good way to hopefully bring the effort down. What he may need to do, I'm just trying to find a good angle for this, is if we're having a look at the kick and body position, it'll be worthwhile. So if we have a look at the kick itself, so the sort of the effort and the speed of the kick seems okay, but I'd be looking to work on the effectiveness of the kick. So you'll see here that most of it, there's probably a little bit too much knee bend happening here. So overall, it's pretty much the knees are staying quite bent the entire way through the kick as we go through. Now, what we want to try and have is, we want him to feel like he's got sort of longer legs. And if we think of like a ballerina, for example, they're standing on their tippy toes, they're keeping fairly straight legs and pointing the toes. We want to think of the legs being quite long and looking for a bit less bend through the knees through the majority of it. Now, in terms of developing this more effective kick, there's a lot of ways you can go about it. And one of the things that I've encouraged a lot of our members to do lately is work on kicking in different directions. So if you're kicking on your front, on your side, on your other side, on your back, you're doing some vertical kick where you might have your hands out of the water and you're just kicking vertically. That stuff can be really good for developing your kick because it's going to work your downwards kick and your upwards kick. And one of the mistakes that people often make is with their kick, all they're focused on, all they're worried about is getting a little bit of propulsion on that downwards kick there. But they never really focus much on this upward kick. But that's where you need to have an effective upwards kick to have an effective downwards kick. Because what sort of happens there is, with an effective upwards kick here, sort of moves the water in that direction, which you can then kick against on the downwards kick. So it's important to have a good downwards and upwards kick there. So I'd be working on that. Now, how he may need to feel is the term that I've heard used is sock kicking. I think it was Dennis Cottrell that might have come up with this phrase, who's the Olympic coach. He talks about sock kicking. So imagine you've got these really long socks on your legs. They come up to your knees. And if you're trying to get the sock off without touching them with your hands, you're just trying to kick it off, you'd sort of do this, this more flutter-like motion. That's sort of the motion that we want. Obviously not as quick as you might do it if you're trying to get rid of them, but that's the sort of motion that we want. So we just want that longer, smoother, and slightly straighter kick as well. He could develop it with the different styles of kick that we talked about, but the thing that I'd be looking to do would be just by starting with some front kick drills that you've probably seen before. Hands out in front, in line with the shoulders, face down with a snorkel on, and just trying to keep the back of your head, your hips, and your heels up near the surface of the water. Get that nice horizontal body position and practice just a small, fairly narrow and consistent kick there to stay horizontal and to just propel yourself forwards. And that can take some practice, but it's a good way to practice that balance in the water, because what he may find is that at the moment, the pressure that he's sort of applying through his chest in order to get the hips up and the legs up, it's probably not quite there yet. And so by doing this front kick drill, you can get a sense of, all right, how much do I have to lean on my chest? How do I need to engage my core, my glutes, my lower back? How much do I need to use that to help get in that horizontal position? And that can be a really good way to go about it, because once you find that balance, it's so much easier to maintain that more horizontal body position there. So there are a couple of things that are going to help him swim for longer without getting tired, and I think it's going to be a combination of them. What I'd probably suggest here would be a good approach would be to go through our virtual clinic drills. We start with front kick. We then go on to side kick and then some variations of it and then some catch drills. But that kind of order is a really good progression to go through. So in that virtual freestyle clinic, which is a video course, which I'll put a link to below, it kind of takes you through the same drills that we do at a clinic, and it takes you through the stroke step by step. So that way you get all these things right, like the beginning catch position, get the head position right, we get the rotation right. Just make sure you're sort of checking these boxes, and you can do this on your own because I explain everything in full detail in that virtual freestyle clinic. So that's a pretty good approach to take, and that's what I'd recommend. If people aren't there, if they're not able to come to our clinics here in Australia, then that's a pretty good format to follow there. So I hope this has been helpful for you, and just know that if you do find it difficult to swim for longer distances without fatiguing, without getting too tired, then it's absolutely possible to make that change. And often it's technique. Sometimes it's general swim fitness if you're brand new to it, but often it is technique and just building up that general fitness as well. Something that I don't mind, particularly if someone's just wanting to get back into swimming for fitness, is it's okay to wear fins or to use a pool buoy through some of your swimming, just to increase the distance a bit, because it's going to be much easier to swim those longer distances. So if you think that it's purely swim fitness, then there's nothing wrong with the pool buoy or the fins to help sort of get that distance up. You don't want it to become a crutch. You don't want it to be something that you just go to and you can't swim at all without them. But it is okay to use that stuff just to sort of build that swim fitness and swim strength up. I find it actually a really good way to do that. For example, I was just gotten back into the water after a number of months out with the pools closed, and I'm doing a little bit of pool buoy paddles work just to get that swim strength back. Because even me, after I've swum for such a long time, but taking that long out of the pool, I don't have that same sort of swim strength as I normally would. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. Let me know your thoughts below. If there's anything you think that I missed, and let me know what you're working on in your own stroke. So if you like this video, more people will see it, helps us with the YouTube algorithm, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next week.